Hello and welcome to ArsenGirl Gaming. My name is Heather and I thank you for joining me for another speed build. This is a Sims 4 speed build very dear to my heart. So basically, I've been out to LA a couple times now and San Francisco, and every time I go out there, I'm kind of surprised by just the amount of homelessness that there is in those cities. Like, kind of mind-boggling to think that there are so many people that live there that don't have shelter, don't have a place to call their own, either by choice because they choose to live a life of drug addiction or by circumstances, and not being able to get out of that once you get into it. And it started me thinking, like, what is the solution? I know there are so many people out there that try to fight homelessness, help the homeless, and you know, there's no easy answer, right? So I started thinking, what would I do if I had the opportunity to help, or if I worked in the local government and was trying to think of ways to kind of combat that. And I kind of came up with this idea. I don't know how feasible it would be in the real world and even how feasible it might be in The Sims, but what I thought about is you have all these urban areas. So these little like cities that have these green spaces, some are used great, some are not. Some just kind of go by the wayside. Why not take them and convert them into small camps? Allow people to put up a tent. If they don't have a tent, you could provide them a tent. The city could provide them a tent, a very basic covering for over their head. There's going to be a communal building where they can take care of their hygiene. They can shower and use the restroom. There's a little outdoor cooking area where they can prepare healthy foods. There are areas throughout my camp where they can grow a garden, where they can work on woodworking. They can build things that they could sell to earn money. They can commune with the other people there. There's even going to be a campfire and a place where they can hang out socially and, you know, feel safe. Like they feel safe. When you go in these walls, this is a safe space for these people to live right in the heart of the city. The walls, the idea is that the walls would be tall enough that it wouldn't offend anybody that's wandering around the city, doing business or otherwise, and also give the people that are living within those walls a sense of security, right? So it's not really to keep anybody in or keep anybody out. It's just kind of a delineation of spaces. And I thought, why couldn't that work? Why couldn't it work? You give them the ability to care for themselves. You have very minimal utility bills, right? Because you're already paying the city utilities for the street lights and otherwise. You'd have some plumbing. But what would be different than having like a restroom in a public park or a rest area or whatever? So I can't imagine that would add too big of a draw onto the public's tax bill, I guess. And like other public housing, you could charge a nominal fee. They either have to work in the gardens, they have to help cook, they have to help clean, or they can do that and pay a small amount of rent, or they could just pay rent and not have to do any of that. I don't know how it would all really play out, but that was kind of where my thought process was going when I was building this. Like, I was kind of thinking, like, how would they all make it work? And it has to be small enough. So in this one, I think I built like very basic campsite for about 6 Sims to live. So we're not talking like double Sims. You can see one of the Sims obviously has a little bit of money. They have a nicer tent. We've got a few Sims that have very small tents that are just basic places to call your own, to crawl in at night and sleep. And, one has a little covering for sitting outside. One has a little personal campfire. And then there's like a communal eating area. And so you can even see like just the different levels of the people living inside this community. And the idea is that hopefully they're going to quote unquote age out, meaning they are able to have an address so that they can get a job. And that job will hopefully move them out of their tent city and into an apartment, maybe even a subsidized apartment by the city. But you have these different steps of ways to get out of the hole that you're in. Maybe they even have counselors come and help with the drug addictions, job counseling, career advice, as far as like people coming and helping with clothing and other things like that. The only thing I did not include, which I probably should have, would be basic laundry facilities, either somewhere to wash outdoors and hang your clothes, or even just a small laundromat, which I didn't think about until after I had finished the speed build. Otherwise, I probably would have added that on to the facility building, just as an aside, because I do think, the homeless live like when. Okay, so sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. When I was in San Francisco, was the first time I was kind of face to face with the how dire it is when I would see in the middle of the day people sleeping on stoops of houses and their belongings in these garbage bags next to them, or people sleeping in a park and all their belongings in a stolen grocery cart. It was just kind of amazing to me that people had to live that way. And I was like, there's got to be something you can do to help people in that situation if they want the help. I say if because I know some people, you know, that's all they know and that's what they're comfortable with, and this is no judgment, right? But then I went to LA, and LA was like 10 times worse from what I saw. Like camps of them. You go under a bridge and there's just camps of people homeless with tents and filth and shopping carts and garbage bags, and I felt so bad. I was like, there's got to be something. There's got to be an answer. And I know these cities tackle this. And, me building this in The Sims is probably not going to make a huge difference in that. But it was a way for me to kind of vocalize how I was feeling and how I would be able to try or think about trying to help people that were in those types of situations. And, be really curious to see what different cities do and how different cities kind of tackle it. Like when I lived in Ohio, I knew we had homeless population. The man with the golden voice who became famous for having such a beautiful voice was a homeless person in my city because he was a drug addict, and he was, that was all he could do to live because he had spent all his money on drugs. And he lived in like a little tent city in the other side of like downtown where I never went, so I never saw it. So it was not something, it was kind of like, in your mind it exists, but you don't see it. So it doesn't really, I don't know, it didn't really affect me as much as when I saw it. And then it just kind of hung around with me over the many times I've now seen it face to face and kind of felt that despair. So, anyway, that's where I come from with this urban camp. And I do hope that you will let me know what your ideas might be for helping combat the homeless situation in America and otherwise. Leave that for me in the comments below because I'd love to hear from you guys. And of course, if you enjoyed this video, I'd also love it if you could give me a thumbs up and let me know that you enjoyed it. And of course, if you're new to my channel, as always, I invite you to subscribe and ring that bell, because once you ring the bell, it lets YouTube know you would like to be notified when I post something new on the channel, and that way you don't miss out on anything coming down the line. I have so much more Sims 4 and some other fun games and just a lot of stuff I want to share with you, and I hope you won't want to miss out on any of it. And again, I hope you enjoyed this video. Until next time, have a great one.